The repair docks of Station Auriga were always noisy. Sparks flew from broken ships, engines roared, and workers shouted to be heard over the machines. Among all this chaos, one man worked quietly, his hands steady and his eyes focused. His name was Daniel, a human engineer who had lived among the stars for many years. He was not rich, not powerful, and not famous. But his skill with machines made him valuable, even in a galaxy that did not think much of humans. On this day, Daniel had finished his shift late in the evening. The wide corridors of the station were almost empty now, only the dim blue lights glowing along the walls. He carried his tool bag, thinking about food and sleep. That was when he heard it, a soft sound like a whimper. At first he ignored it. Stations often echoed with strange noises, pipes hissing, doors clicking shut, engines cooling down. But this sound came again. It was small, fragile, and full of fear. Daniel stopped walking. His instincts told him someone was in trouble. He followed the sound down a side corridor that few people used. The light there flickered and the air smelled of dust and rust. And then in the shadows he saw her. It was a child. She was small, sitting on the cold metal floor, her knees pulled to her chest. Her skin had a pale glow like moonlight and her eyes were bright silver. Most striking of all were the wings folded against her back. Delicate, feathered, but one of them was twisted at a wrong angle, broken. She looked weak, lost, and afraid. Daniel froze. He had seen many alien species before, but this child was different. She was not from any common race he knew. Her clothes were torn but fine, stitched with symbols he did not understand. The girl looked up at him. Fear flashed in her eyes, and she tried to push herself back against the wall, as if she expected him to hurt her. Daniel raised his hands slowly. His voice was calm, gentle. "I am not going to hurt you," he said. "You are hurt." "Let me help." The girl shook her head quickly. Her voice was small, almost a whisper. "No, no one must see me." That answer only made Daniel more curious. Who was this child hiding alone in the dark with a broken wing? He took a step closer, careful not to frighten her. "If you stay here, the wound will only get worse. You need help." "Let me look at it." The girl hesitated. Her silver eyes studied him, as if searching for something. Finally, she gave the smallest nod. Daniel knelt down, opening his tool bag. He had fixed engines, doors, weapons, and even alien tech, but never wings. Still, the basics of repair were always the same. Find what is broken, understand it, and make it strong again. The wing was bent near the joint, feathers bent and wires hidden beneath the bone-like frame. It was not fully natural. It was living tissue mixed with some kind of biotech. Whoever had built it had skill far beyond Daniel's. "This will hurt a little," he warned gently, "but I can fix it enough for you to move." The girl winced but nodded again. He worked carefully, adjusting the joint, sealing the cracks with bonding gel he usually used for circuits. His hands were steady, his movements calm. The child did not cry, though her face showed the pain. She watched him, her silver eyes wide. Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Daniel paused for a moment. The question was simple, but her tone carried surprise, as if she had never expected kindness before. "Because you need help," he answered simply. "That is enough reason." The girl lowered her gaze, silent. Minutes passed. Slowly, the wing began to look better. The twisted joint was straighter, the damaged feathers aligned. It was not perfect, but it would heal now. When Daniel finished, he sat back. "There, try moving it." The girl stretched her wing slowly. Pain flickered across her face, but the movement was smoother now. She looked at him with something new in her eyes. Trust. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel gave a small smile. "Stay here. Rest a while. You will feel better soon." But even as he said it, footsteps echoed down the corridor, heavy metallic boots striking against the floor. More than one. The girl's face went pale. Her silver eyes widened in fear. She grabbed Daniel's arm with surprising strength. "Please," she whispered, almost desperate. "Do not let them take me." Before Daniel could answer, a group of tall armored guards appeared at the far end of the hall. Their armor was black and gold, their helmets shaped like sharp blades. Each carried a weapon glowing faintly in the dim light. The guards saw the girl. At once they froze, and then all together they dropped to one knee, their heads bowed. "Princess," one of them said, his voice low and full of respect. "We have found you." Daniel's heart pounded. Princess? The child he had just helped was not just anyone. She was someone powerful, someone royal, someone who could change everything. The girl squeezed his hand again. Her silver eyes locked on his. She did not let go. And in that moment, Daniel understood. His simple act of kindness had just pulled him into a story far larger than he could imagine. The silence after the guards spoke was heavy. Their voices carried respect, but their eyes burned with suspicion. Daniel could feel it. Every soldier there was questioning why a human was kneeling beside their princess. The girl held Daniel's hand tightly. Her small fingers clutched his as if she feared they might tear him away. The lead guard's sharp gaze fell on Daniel, cold and dangerous. "You," the guard said, his tone like steel. "What have you done to her?" Daniel rose slowly to his feet, meeting the alien's gaze without fear. She was hurt. Her wing was broken. "I only helped." The guards looked at one another. Their expressions were hidden behind helmets, but their tension was clear. No one dared to speak against the princess's presence. Still, their weapons hummed softly as if ready to strike at the smallest order. The child's voice broke the silence. "He fixed me," she said firmly, her silver eyes glowing. "He helped me when no one else would." The guards hesitated. The girl's words carried weight, far more than her small frame suggested. Finally, the lead guard gave a stiff nod. "Very well, but the Empress must decide his fate." Two guards stepped forward as if to take Daniel by force, but the girl spread her wings, painful but steady, and stepped in front of him. Her broken wing, though not healed, now moved with surprising strength. "No," she said with command in her tone. "He comes with me." The guards froze again. Even Daniel was surprised. The fragile child who had once looked so afraid now stood tall, her voice carrying the strength of someone born to rule. The lead guard bowed his head. "As you wish, Princess." The soldiers surrounded them, and together they walked through the winding halls of the station. Daniel carried his tool bag, his mind racing. Only hours ago he had been an ordinary engineer. Now he was walking beside a royal heir, watched by guards who looked like they could kill him in an instant. As they moved, Daniel noticed whispers in the station. Traders, workers, and aliens of many kinds stopped to watch. Their eyes widened when they saw the princess, but then narrowed at the sight of Daniel beside her. A human walking with the heir of an empire. It was unthinkable. The journey ended in a docking bay where a massive ship waited. Its black hull shimmered with golden markings, and its shape was both elegant and terrifying. Daniel had repaired many ships in his life, but never had he seen one so advanced. It was less a vessel, more a floating palace. The guards guided them aboard. Inside, the ship glowed with soft lights, its walls carved with symbols older than Daniel could guess. The air was clean, almost sweet, and it carried the faint sound of distant music. In a chamber lined with tall windows, they stopped. The princess sat on a cushioned seat, folding her wings carefully. Daniel remained standing near her, unsure of what was expected. The girl looked at him again. For the first time, there was no fear in her eyes, only curiosity. "You are human," she said softly, almost to herself. Daniel nodded. "Yes, and you are—" She tilted her head, her silver eyes reflecting the ship's golden lights. "My name is Celine, daughter of the Empress." The words hit Daniel like a blow. He had guessed she was important, but the daughter of the Empress? That meant she was not just a princess, she was the heir to one of the most powerful thrones in the galaxy. Celine lowered her gaze, touching her mended wing. "No one has ever helped me like that before. Not even my own people." Daniel was silent. What could he say? He had done what anyone with a heart would do. And yet in this empire, kindness seemed rare. She looked up again. "Why did you help me?" Daniel's answer was the same as before, steady and true. "Because you needed help." Celine studied him for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she smiled. A small, fragile smile, but real. "I will remember that," she whispered. The chamber doors opened suddenly. The guards bowed deeply. Daniel turned and his breath caught. The Empress herself entered. She was tall, her presence filling the room before she even spoke. Her robe shimmered like starlight, and her wings stretched wide, far larger than Celine's. Her eyes, deep silver like her daughter's, fell upon Daniel at once. The room grew colder under her gaze. "So," she said, her voice calm but dangerous, "this is the human who touched my child." Daniel felt the weight of her words. The guards' hands gripped their weapons, ready for the Empress's command. Celine stood quickly. "Mother, please." He saved me. He is the reason I am alive. The Empress raised a hand and the guards lowered their weapons. Her eyes never left Daniel. You fixed her wing, the Empress said slowly as though testing the words. A human doing what even my finest healers could not. Daniel did not answer. He knew one wrong word could mean his death. The Empress stepped closer, her gaze sharp as a blade. She circled him once as if examining a strange artifact. Finally, she stopped before him. You will come with us, she declared. The fate of a human who touches royal blood is not for guards or servants to decide. It is mine. Celine's hand found Daniel's again. Her grip was warm but trembling. For the first time, Daniel wondered if his act of kindness had not only saved a child, but bound him to a destiny he could not escape. And in the silence that followed, the void between them seemed deeper than the stars. The revelation, the royal ship moved silently through the stars. Its engines made no sound, yet Daniel could feel the vibration in his chest. He sat in a chamber of polished stone and crystal, guarded by soldiers who did not speak a word. Beside him, Selene sat close, her silver eyes calm but watchful. She did not let go of his hand, even though the guards stared. To her, the human engineer was no longer a stranger. He was the one who had healed her broken wing. Hours passed before the ship finally slowed. Daniel looked through a wide window and saw a world unlike any he had ever known. A giant planet glowed with rings of fire and light. Floating above its surface were golden towers and cities built on air, suspended by energy fields. This was no ordinary world. This was the capital of the Empire. The ship descended toward the largest tower, taller than any mountain Daniel had seen. At its peak, lights shone like stars, guiding them into a hangar lined with hundreds of guards in black and gold armor. The moment Daniel stepped off the ship, whispers began. Soldiers and courtiers alike turned their heads, a human walking beside the air. It was unthinkable. Humanity, to most of the galaxy, was a forgotten race, weak, scattered, and unimportant. Yet here was one standing in the presence of power. The guards led them through shining halls of glass and stone. Strange creatures of many forms bowed as Selene passed, their eyes full of reverence. But when they saw Daniel, their faces twisted with disgust or fear. Finally, the massive doors of the throne room opened. The chamber was vast, its ceiling so high it vanished into shadows. Silver flames burned in tall columns lighting the hall, and at the center, on a throne carved from black crystal, sat the Empress. Her wings stretched wide, their feathers shining like blades of light. Her presence alone made the air heavy, as if the room bent to her will. Courtiers lined the walls, bowing deeply as she raised her hand. The Empress's voice was calm, yet every word struck like thunder. Bring forward the human. Daniel stepped into the center of the hall. Hundreds of eyes turned to him, some filled with hatred, some with shock, and some with amusement. The Empress studied him in silence. Her silver eyes cut through him like fire. My daughter tells me, she said at last, that you saved her life, that you repaired what no healer or scientist in this empire could fix. Daniel swallowed but stood straight. Her wing was broken. I fixed what I could. I did what was right. Murmurs filled the hall. A human speaking so plainly before the Empress was unheard of. The Empress leaned forward. Do you know who she is? Daniel glanced at Selene. She looked back at him, her expression gentle but worried. She is your daughter, he answered. The heir. The Empress's lips curved into the faintest smile, though her eyes remained cold. Then you understand the weight of what you have done. To touch the heir without permission is punishable by death. The words cut through the hall like a blade. The courtiers gasped. The guards tightened their grips on their weapons. Selene stood quickly, her small figure trembling but strong. Mother! She cried. He saved me. Without him, I would still be broken. You cannot punish him for kindness. The Empress's gaze flicked to her daughter, then back to Daniel. For a moment, the silence was unbearable. Then she rose from her throne, her wings unfolding until they filled the chamber. You are human, she said slowly. A race that the galaxy has forgotten. Once you were warriors, explorers, builders. Now you are dust scattered among the stars. Tell me, Daniel of Earth, why should I not erase you as the others did? Daniel felt every eye on him waiting for his answer. His heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. Because strength is not in what a race once was. It is in what it chooses to be now. I helped your daughter because she needed me. If that is a crime, then punish me, but I will not regret it. The hall went silent. Not even the flame seemed to flicker. The Empress studied him, her expression unreadable. And then slowly she began to laugh, not cruel but sharp and powerful. The courtiers trembled. Some bowed lower, some dared not look up. "You speak with courage," the Empress said. "Courage I have not heard from a human in centuries." She turned to her daughter. "Celine, you have chosen well in defending him. This man is not ordinary." Then she faced the hall. Her voice boomed through the chamber. "Hear me! From this day forward, the human who saved my heir shall be bound to the royal house. He will walk under my protection, and no hand shall harm him without facing my wrath." Gasps filled the throne room. Some courtiers were outraged, others shocked, and a few stared at Daniel with fear. Celine's face lit with relief. She rushed forward and stood beside him, her hand gripping his tightly once more. The Empress's wings folded back as she sat again upon her throne. Her gaze softened, just slightly. "Your kindness has earned you a place in my empire, Daniel of Earth, but remember this. The galaxy is not kind. Those who see you rise will want you to fall." Daniel bowed his head. "I understand." But inside his mind burned with questions. Why did the Empress protect him? What would it mean to be bound to her family? And what danger would come next? As the guards led him from the throne room, he felt the weight of countless eyes still on him. For the first time, he realized that a single choice to help a lost child had drawn him into the center of an empire. And in the shadows of the court, where whispers twisted like knives, new enemies were already watching. The Empress's decision, the palace halls were filled with whispers. Word spread quickly. A human had stood before the Empress, had spoken without fear, and had been spared. Not only spared, but honored. For most of the galaxy, humans were forgotten. A scattered race with no empire, no fleets, no voice in the great councils. To see one walk beside the heir of the throne was something that unsettled everyone. Daniel did not walk proudly. He walked carefully, feeling every stare cut into him like a blade. Some looked at him with open hatred, others with disbelief, and a few with fear, as if his very presence was a threat to their power. Celine stayed close to him, her repaired wing moving gently at her side. She did not let go of his hand. To her, he was not just a human. He was the one who had seen her as more than a title. The Empress summoned Daniel again the next day. The throne room was empty this time, save for Celine, 2 guards, and the Empress herself. She sat upon her throne, her silver eyes sharp as ever. "Daniel of Earth," she began, "I have decided your place here." Daniel bowed his head slightly, waiting. "You are bound now to the royal house," she continued. "That is both protection and burden. You will have no chains, no prison. Instead, you will have duties. My daughter has chosen to trust you." "That alone is rare," Celine spoke softly. "Mother, he deserves more than duty. He saved me when all others looked away." The Empress lifted her hand, silencing her daughter. Her eyes never left Daniel. "You are human," she said slowly, as though tasting the word. "A race the galaxy once feared and now ignores. I remember when your kind fought with fire and iron, when your ships cut across the stars. But now you are scattered dust, forgotten." Her tone grew sharper. "And yet in one act you remind me of what humanity once was. Kind, brave, unafraid." Daniel spoke calmly. "I did not save Celine for power. I only saw a child in pain." The Empress leaned forward, her wings shifting like storm clouds. "And that is why I chose not to end you. In this court, kindness is weakness, but in you, kindness is strength. I will test if that strength is real." Her words echoed through the chamber. Daniel could feel the weight of destiny pressing on his shoulders. The Empress stood, her presence filling the room. "You will stay within my palace. You will learn our ways. You will serve by my daughter's side. If you prove yourself worthy, you may rise higher than any human has in centuries. But know this, many here will wish to see you fall." Daniel nodded. "I understand." But the Empress's eyes narrowed. "Do you? Already there are those plotting against you. To them you are an insult. A human, walking where only the noble should walk. They will test you. They will try to break you. If you fail, they will not need my judgment. You will simply vanish." Celine stepped forward quickly, her small voice cutting through the heavy silence. "Mother, I will protect him." The Empress looked at her daughter with rare softness, then back at Daniel. "And perhaps he will protect you." For a moment, the hall grew quiet. The Empress's gaze softened slightly. Then she turned and sat again upon her throne. "Go," she commanded. "Rest. Learn. Tomorrow your trials begin." The guards led them away, but the words clung to Daniel's mind. Trials. He was no soldier, no warrior, only an engineer who had once fixed broken machines. And yet now, he was expected to survive the challenges of an empire. That night, Daniel was given chambers inside the palace. They were far grander than anything he had known. Walls of crystal, floors of polished stone, windows that looked out into the endless stars. Yet Daniel could not rest. He paced the room, his thoughts heavy. He remembered the Empress's warning, enemies, plots, trials, and he remembered Selene's hand holding his, her eyes full of trust. She believed in him, perhaps more than he believed in himself. As he looked out into the night sky, a strange feeling came over him. For the first time since leaving Earth long ago, he felt something stir deep inside, a spark of purpose. But outside his chamber, in the endless halls of the palace, shadows were already moving. Courtiers whispered in secret rooms. Generals spoke with anger. Advisors sharpened their plans like knives. To them, Daniel was not a hero. He was a threat, a human in a place where no human should stand. And though he did not yet know it, the first of his trials was already waiting. The galaxy had forgotten humanity. But soon, because of him, it would remember. The new destiny, the palace, was never quiet. Day and night the halls were alive with movement. Guards marching in perfect rhythm, nobles whispering in corners, advisors rushing with tablets of glowing light. To Daniel, it felt less like a home and more like a giant machine, every part turning for the Empress's will. Yet he was no ordinary guest. He was watched. Every meal he ate, every word he spoke, every step he took, someone's eyes were always following. Some looked at him with hatred, some with cold curiosity, and a few with silent fear. It did not take long for his first trial to come. At dawn, the great horns of the palace rang out. Daniel was summoned to the training grounds, a wide arena of black stone beneath an open sky. Selene walked beside him, her repaired wing still fragile but steady. She smiled at him to give courage, but her eyes betrayed worry. The Empress sat high upon a balcony, her silver wings stretched like blades of light. Around her stood nobles, generals, and priests, all waiting to see what would become of the human who had dared to stand beside the heir. A warrior stepped into the arena. He was tall, his armor black and gold, his wings sharper than spears. His name was General Kale, one of the Empire's fiercest commanders. He pointed his blade at Daniel. "This human," Kale said loudly, "claims a place among us. Let him prove it. If he survives one strike, he will live. If not, he dies, and the Empress's mercy ends here." The crowd whispered in excitement. To them, this was entertainment. To Daniel, it was life or death. He had no weapon. Only his wits. Kale raised his sword, glowing with energy. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He was no fighter. He was an engineer, but he remembered the Empress's words. Trials would come. He remembered Selene's trust, the way she had held his hand, and deep inside he felt something he had not felt in years. Defiance. The fight began. Kale's blade came down with a roar. Daniel threw himself aside, the strike cracking the black stone where he had stood. Dust and sparks flew. The crowd gasped. Again Kale attacked, fast and merciless. Daniel dodged, each strike missing by inches. He moved not with skill but with instinct, studying Kale the way he studied machines. Every swing, every step, every pause was a pattern like gears in motion. Daniel's mind worked quickly. Kale was strong but also proud. He expected Daniel to break, and in his pride, he left openings. When Kale swung wide again, Daniel grabbed a fallen piece of stone and slammed it against the warrior's arm. The shock made Kale stumble. The crowd roared with surprise. Daniel did not press the attack. He stood tall, breathing hard, eyes locked on the general. "I am not here to fight for blood," Daniel said loudly. "I am here because I chose to help." "That is strength too." The arena grew silent. Even the Empress leaned forward. Kyle's face twisted in anger. He raised his blade again, but then the Empress lifted her hand. "Enough." The general froze, bowing his head. The Empress rose, her wings spreading wide. Her voice echoed across the arena. "The human has endured. He faced death, yet still stands. His strength is not in battle, but in will. That too has value. She turned her gaze to Daniel, her eyes sharp but no longer cold. From this day you are not only bound to my daughter, you are bound to this empire. You will walk among us, not as servant, not as slave, but as one of us. The crowd erupted in shock. Some shouted in anger, others bowed in silence. Celine's face lit with joy. She rushed forward and took Daniel's hand, her smile bright like starlight. Daniel bowed his head. I will not fail you. The Empress's eyes narrowed slightly, a trace of warning in her tone. See that you do not. For if you fall, it will not only be your fate, it will be hers as well. Those words sent a chill through Daniel. The weight of his choice was no longer his alone. His life was now tied to Celine, to the Empire, and perhaps to the fate of humanity itself. That night, Daniel stood again at his chamber window, staring into the endless stars. The whispers of the court still echoed in the halls, but he no longer felt small. He had survived the first trial. He had earned the Empress's protection, yet he also knew this was only the beginning. More eyes would turn to him. More enemies would rise. The galaxy had ignored humanity for centuries. Now, because of him, it would remember. And as the night sky stretched above him, Daniel whispered softly to himself, "This is my new destiny.